Hey, welcome back into today's video. I feel like I want to talk about a couple concerns that I have about Chris Hansen and the Discovery documentary with Onision In Real Life. There's a couple things that I just feel like are problematic, some things that just don't rub me the right way, and it also sounds like there's going to be a sequel called Onision Unplugged. We're going to talk about all that and more in today's episode of... What episode is this? So if you're unfamiliar, Chris Hansen did a documentary on Onision, the most problematic YouTuber on the platform, and it was called Onision In Real Life. This was a documentary that they reached out to multiple YouTubers to be in, I myself being one of those YouTubers, but it felt real sketchy, and in the end I decided not to partake in it. But they used clips from my channel in that anyways, along with other people, which is fine. It's fair use. They do them. But it turns out that there were several lies that I'm about to talk about. Things that they said they were not going to do, but things that they absolutely did. And I fully believe that this was set up in a way to try to get us as YouTubers and creators to be on that show, specifically to talk about our criticisms of Chris Hansen, only for them to allow Chris Hansen to respond, but not us. Not us. It does appear that Chris Hansen is using Discovery Channel to his own end. This is not good. This is a misuse of power, and we're gonna... Emails and messages from the show producers when they attempted to recruit me. So these emails are gonna give you guys a lot of insight into this situation on the back end, and just kind of see how this worked. Now, they reached out to me, and it was very strange. They specifically wanted me to talk about the YouTube space, and they wanted me to talk about Chris Hansen. They wanted me to do what I was already doing on my channel, and they really pressed hard for this. Now seeing with what played out with Edwin, we can see that they wanted us on there so Chris Hansen could criticize us. I'm glad that it didn't go on there. I did not trust them. They want me to talk about how YouTube works, but specifically they'd like me to speak about the role Chris Hansen has played in this story, which was really strange because this just came after my video criticizing Chris Hansen and his decision and the way he went about doing and pitching this documentary. So I just couldn't understand why they would want me to do that when I was a big detractor of this whole entire doc. I said, hey, I wanted to tell you personally I'm declining the offer, but I really appreciate it and would be willing to do any other project with you. I really thought hard about it, and I don't want to be a part of something that was born off the back of Survivors in the way that it was. I believe in full transparency, something that Chris really should have understood from the start. I can advise from the back end if that helps. Shane, a Southern YouTuber, because I'm funny. This context is very important. So he reached out to me and said he had a project that he feels like I would be a good fit for, and I said, what's the project? He sent me over a draft of questions, and then I told him I'd let him know what I thought. He said the goal is to make me look as professional as they can, with a fire emoji, because that means it's serious. I said, so I need to know for sure if the girls' interviews will be used without their consent. My main concern is that not happening. He says 115% no girls' interviews will be used without their consent. That is a lie. We know this by now, but I just want to show you how hard that this was pushed on me. I said specifically I heard that Sarah say this was the case. Do you know anything about why she would assume this? Again, he says if she doesn't want to be part of it, we understand and will not be telling her story without consent or approval. If she does, that's fine and we will work for it. But if she doesn't, that's also fine and we will keep her out as much as we can. I said, what does as much as we can mean? And then we had to jump on a Discord call where I was told again and again and again that this wasn't going to, it was not possible, it wasn't going to happen. After the call, I said, let me explain my position a bit. Obviously, I've been critical of Hansen along with John and the boys, so being on a show that could potentially re-victimize the very people I've been helping is a big no. However, that being said, if that is not the case, and I'm just informing viewers of the question listed, I'm game. I just need to review the contract. So I was fully considering doing this. That's before I really reached out to you guys and asked you what you thought, but I decided in the end I was not going to do it because I just feel like I couldn't trust him. Obviously, we know that this was the best decision for me. He was adamant about asking me to get me on, and I said, I haven't had time to go over the form just yet, but I'll get back to you today. Really appreciate the professionalism. He's checking back in again. I said, I'm just tired, just being a tired human. He wants to talk again. I said, tomorrow sounds better. We can talk on Discord. He really adamant about this. I'm telling him how much anxiety this gives me. We talk a little bit about trying to get other people on board because I feel like he knew I was friends with a lot of these people that they wanted, and they could get these people on board through me. And then when I said I keep asking but they don't seem interested, he said, that's fine. We want you to make sure all your worries are settled and make the best thing possible. You are the professional. And I said, I'm not the best professional, but I try. I said, I'm confused about Hansen's involvement. It sounds like he is no more involved than I would be, but then it seems there is another side where he is more involved and getting paid a lot. He says that Hansen has no involvement, literally none. He doesn't decide what goes on camera, but he has no idea if Hansen's getting paid, but it's definitely not a lot. That's awkward. I have no idea if he's getting paid, but it's definitely not a lot. So that's not confirming or denying. At this point in time, I was reaching out to Sarah and Billy and other girls that were involved, and I found out from Haley that Hansen said that he was actually a producer. He reiterated that he didn't know Hansen's involvement. Then I asked him if any of the other survivors that were going on board with this were going to be reading other survivors' stories without their consent. And I said this would be a big issue. And then finally, after I went through this whole conversation for days with this guy, and he was really just adamant about getting me on, and I weighed the options. I said, I decided to decline. I emailed already. I wish you guys the best of luck. I still would like to learn more about journalism if you're down. And then he says, LOL, well, thanks for playing us. And I said, no one played you. In fact, I was one of the only ones willing to give it a proper thought. So the reason I wanted to go over this was to show you that going into this, I was told on every end that these stories were not going to be told without consent. But we know that's not what happened. If you literally go to the Onision In Real Life IMDb, it's got a 3.8 out of 10 on stars, but what I want you to look at is trivia. If you click trivia, despite what the series claims, Onision was a controversial figure on YouTube long before Chris Hansen ever investigated him. Several interviews and clips were used without the consent of the original creators. Several victims' names were revealed in the documentary despite them asking not being named. The only evidence against Onision, a laptop, was misplaced by Chris Hansen. The only piece of physical evidence, a laptop containing the proof of inappropriate images Onision's husband sent and received with a minor, was mishandled by Hansen. He broke the chain of custody by letting his former Meteor producer, Vincent Nicoltra, hold onto it for months instead of getting it to the FBI. So that's sketchy. But check this out. They tried so hard to get us creators on there. And the one that did go on, Edwin, after he gave them the benefit of the doubt, after he trusted them, yes, they allowed him to speak his criticisms of Chris Hansen, but unbeknownst to him, they gave Chris Hansen an opportunity to respond finally, which wasn't talked about.
Promises that he wouldn't, couldn't, or just didn't deliver on. And when people would get upset about it or complain, he would just discard them, ignore them or block them in Ashley's case, or I guess make a TV show out of it. And one of the biggest reasons as to why people accepted to be interviewed by him, as well as one of the biggest reasons as to why people didn't speak out against him once they were screwed over, is because his name is Chris Hansen. So you ask me if he took advantage of these people, I say yes. These are some of the reasons why one of my criticisms of Chris Hansen in the documentary was that he exploits victims. Everybody thought that it was just for financial gain, and he essentially does exploit victims, in my opinion.
Well, Edwin, perhaps you should take a look in the mirror, having tried to use victims in your own way with the drama channel to drive up clicks and views.
When I heard Chris Hansen say that, I had to pause. I was disgusted. I don't know how to explain it to Chris Hansen that him and I are not the same. I'm not sure if the producers sent you a clip of what I said and had you respond directly, and maybe you just sent in an audio bite because you're not on camera when you're saying this, right? It's very possible, but I'll just give you the benefit of the doubt that you're not saying that I exploit victims and I should look in the mirror, because that's just absolutely ridiculous. However, you do say that I use victims to drive up clicks and views for my channel. So that was the ultimate "no you" from Chris Hansen. You know, and it's interesting because he insulted me by trying to say that I do what he does. Weird. I mean, damn, what a childish fucking answer. When you watch the documentary, you'll notice that they show clips of Chris Hansen's interviews, but they blur out the face of who he's talking to and also the name. But why even show the title of the YouTube video minus a name, as if people can't just look it up on YouTube? You see, Chris, the people that I've hosted on my platform, I've been very respectful to, and in turn, they've given me respect back. You can't compare yourself to me because you can't say the same. Riddle me this, Mr. Hansen. How many people that have been on your show have asked you to take down their interviews and you refuse to? You know what? That you can maybe count on one hand. Maybe it's been less than 5. However, how many people that have been on your show have gone on to say terrible things about you after they've been on your show? Oof, that's definitely beyond 2 hands. Ooh, I have another one. How many people have you had on your show that you later went on to block on Twitter? Once again, Chris Hansen, we are not the same. I have never promised anybody that I've worked closely with for a video on, or anybody that I've hosted on my platform for an interview, anything that I could not deliver. That's where you fail.
Chris Hansen reacts to criticism with ridicule and intimidation, and it looks as if he's using the platform Discovery Plus to do this.
Just a day after episode 3 of Onision in Real Life rolled out on Discovery Plus, there is a sequel, Onision Unplugged. We have now confirmed that YouTube has demonetized the main YouTube channels of Gregory James Jackson, Onision. We've reached out to YouTube for comment. A spokesperson has not gotten back to me, but in the documentary, if you've seen it, there is graphic evidence of not only Onision's abuse and predatory behavior targeting young women, but the exploitation and violation of YouTube standards over and over and over again. It's about time. There is so much more to come in this story, both editorially and in the investigation being conducted now by law enforcement, being more focused than ever. It should also serve as a warning to those who exploit YouTube, who use targeted harassment and misinformation campaigns, because the spotlight is now on you. Much more to come very soon. Have a good night. I'll be watching.
I gotta be completely honest with you, I don't see any other way to look at this. I mean, literally within the documentary, he responded to criticisms without giving Edwin the ability to hear that and let him properly respond. That seemed very targeted considering the context that I've given you at the beginning of the video. So there's that, and then he says this. I mean, we could give the benefit of the doubt here, but to give the benefit of doubt to Chris Hansen after everything that we have seen come from him, I'm not going to do that. I know there's other people that are nicer and say I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to do that. I see this for what it is. It's manipulation. It's been manipulation from the start. Anybody that would use survivors in this way to press this type of agenda, it's not going to fly. I had criticisms with the way Chris Hansen conducted his interviews from the start. He got these girls, these girls who were in traumatic events, to tell their stories live with no prompting, no beforehand talk about these types of things. It was just more or less just, you're on live to thousands of people. It was reckless, and emotions were always going to be high. It's almost like he wanted these girls to react emotionally. When I conduct my interviews, I make sure everyone is safe, everybody feels good. We go over it as many times as we need to go over. That way we both are on the same page and everybody feels secure. That element is missing and has been missing from the start, not to mention that he never told anybody that he was going to be trying to make this go to TV. And then when he did, he promised that they would not use their stories without consent, but he did it anyways. I'm a little bit upset about it. In fact, I just got additional confirmation, and you're not going to believe this. Confirmation on the second installment of the Onision series. This will supposedly include Onision survivor Sarah. They say the Onision show put a ripple through the community. Still, it only has 3 out of 10 stars on IMDb. Now, as you can see, This is another thing about Hansen taking full credit, but it says now Sarah, an accuser who arguably had the closest connection to Jackson, that's Onision, is coming forward for a one-on-one interview about her experience. And this was very shocking because originally the narrative was Hansen used their interviews without their consent. Well, it turns out that he actually forced her to come forward with her story. Another one of the girls said Sarah did her story justice by telling it herself instead of letting Shiloh tell it for her. She did not want to participate and never had any intention until she saw how poorly Shiloh and Regina represented her in episode 2. Their entire interaction with Sarah after episode 2 to discuss her involvement took place less than 2 weeks ago. If anyone's trying to bring Sarah down for this, because none of you know how difficult this has been. So essentially, as we know, Hansen went forward with having other survivors, Shiloh and Regina, tell Sarah's story. She did not want to be on national television. She did not consent to this stuff, but felt forced because when Shiloh and Regina told her story without consent, it misrepresented several facts, so she's decided to come forward with this. And we also have another confirmation of one Twitter user said, so like I had this feeling that the girl actually consented to having their faces blurred and stuff, but using their stories. And like, yeah, we've been fighting for literally nothing, LMAO. I'm so done with this. Sarah actually responds, says, yeah, I didn't. Thanks. So she is verifying that she did not ever consent to her story being told, but does feel like she is forced to come forward. So this is a terrible thing. This goes back to Hansen's unethical treatment of the survivors that he's interviewed, essentially of forcing this girl to come forward with her story. Another girl close to the story, Haley, says, what else do you do to take control back after you've been backed into a corner and fully betrayed by people you at one point considered your closest friends? ID is still dirty for what they did, and every criticism towards them is still valid. Another thing I want to talk about is, yes, Onision was completely demonetized the other day on YouTube, and this did happen after the documentary. A lot of people were saying if it wasn't for the documentary, this would not have happened. But to say that is overlooking everybody else that has group-wise worked towards this type of end to have YouTube take some sort of action. It's also overlooking that YouTube always takes action when there's enough attention on a subject matter. Talking about Matt Watson back when they found issues with the algorithm that really not good people were exploiting. That prompted them to put in more strict age restrictions on the platform, to the Vox Apocalypse, where they really took a look at free speech and really overhauled things, which most likely led to even Leafy getting banned. They're always going to take action when stuff gets a lot of media attention. So it was a group effort from the very beginning. The Quartering made a really good tweet on this. Everything out there about Onision was already known inside the YouTube community. The commentary community versus Onision is a tale nearly a decade old. His removal from the partner program is not a result of new info. It is a result of poorly made legacy media hit piece that Chris Hansen is taking. He's saying that he did this. He's saying that it was all him, even though we all know that if all the YouTubers involved covering this hadn't been covering this from the start, none of this would have happened. Wouldn't have happened. There wouldn't even have been a show in the first place. And I think that's a really important thing that needs to be said for anybody out there who is trying to give credit to Chris Hansen for this. Because, sure, you could give Chris Hansen credit, and I want to give credit where credit's due, but you also have to keep in mind the context of his unethical treatment of survivors that he's interviewed, survivors that want nothing to do with him anymore, and his ability to step on whoever he needs to in order to meet whatever goal he wants. This being to get back on TV. And most of the YouTubers that cover these topics and have been covering this topic have stood by the people, never against them, to whatever end was necessary. And I think that's really an important difference. We seek out to make sure these girls are comfortable. We seek out to make sure that everything is okay. That's not what happened here. And that's important to note. But as interesting as this is, there's always something that's more interesting to me. That's right, you guessed it. I want to know what you think. So why don't you go ahead and leave your creative and interesting responses in the comment box below. Thumbs up for those likes as always, brothers and sisters. I will see you in the next video. This wasn't a video I thought about making. This was just like something that I felt like was building and I needed to talk about. I feel like the context is extremely important. But other than that, I just want to let you guys know, I'm sorry I haven't been uploading. I had a couple people pass away. I had a friend that passed away last week. And then right after that, my cousin passed away. Unexpected cancer out of nowhere. And it really hit me hard, these things. It's like, what I try to do is whenever this energy hits me in this way and makes me feel this way, I try to convert that energy into something usable for positive energy. That's the best way I can handle my emotions when it comes to these things. So I've been trying to pace myself, pace my mental health. I have been working on other things. As you know, the editing's gotten better because I've gotten better. I've been studying into it thanks to Nick Diorio, John Swan. I'm also working on making my thumbnails better. This is my first professionalistic thumbnail. I hope you guys like it. Other than that, I do want to thank my patrons because this channel would not even be here if it wasn't for my patrons, because you can't rely on YouTube income. It's completely impossible. So I really respect and love each and every one of you. You guys are amazing. Your names are always going to be at the end of these videos. I guess that's it. I need to get on the ball. I need to make more videos. You're going to be seeing more of me. I missed you. It's good to see you. And don't ever forget that this channel loves you.